Right then, on that note, let's get ready to rumble.
Watch us wreck the pod. Watch us wreck the pod.
Watch us wreck the mic. Hello, my name is Gareth Evans, and this is Mr. Henry Cooper, and welcome to another Pretty Good Gaming podcast.
Dat Cops.
Dat Cops 2019, number 3.
Got to get that Cops.
So that's a PJ and Duncan reference for those of you who weren't aware. Watch us wreck the mic.
Psych.
Which we just watched the video for, and it's so cool, man. Just looking back, Ant and Deck back in the
the curtains coming like right down.
That was me. That was me in '94, man.
Jesus.
I was 13 years old.
Get it back. Do it again.
You want me to get the curtains back? I swear to God, I've got a picture of me with curtains somewhere. That's me. That was me.
Oh, please.
I swear to God,
that's fucking hilarious.
That was my heyday when I was 13 years old.
I see people with curtains like these days. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't look cool. Sort it out.
Get back in your time machine
and fuck off. Well, I'm not saying I'm the arbiter of cool. I mean, fucking look at me, but come on.
That's exactly what you're saying, Henry. So welcome to today's podcast. We are going to be talking shit as usual about all the stuff that's kind of half important to us. So firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to the patrons over at patreon.com/prettygoodgamer. Those of you who commit your finances or a portion of your finances every single month in order to help us support us bring you this content. Because without you, we really, really wouldn't be able to do this. So bottom of my heart, as usual, thank you guys for helping us, supporting us, bring you this stuff. If anybody out there isn't a patron but does want to support the channel beyond subscribing and liking the videos or however you do, head over to patreon.com and see if you can help us out and see what rewards you can get in return. On that note, let's talk about what we did this week. So we did a Death Stranding video, right?
Yes. Wasn't really anything in particular. It's just kind of a roundup of various sort of newsy things about whether or not it might come out this year.
Scrolling for evidence because you don't have to, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a public
proper
service.
Investigative journalism, taking all the rumours, right?
I mean, it was a couple of Googling and trying to put it together in a structured way.
Yeah. I think it's a lot. People might miss these little nuggets of like, implied implication here, a slight bit of...
Because a lot of them come out and it's just like one thing, so it's not worth doing a whole thing on. And that's what I saw. I saw one and I was like, oh, that's interesting, but it's not worth like a whole like video to cover it. So I was like, oh, I'll put them all together and do it as like a compilation of these potential indications that might come out this year.
Because we were talking about it earlier, and there hasn't been a trailer for a while, right?
No, I think we're definitely due one, and there probably would have been one at the Game Awards,
which was teased.
Yeah,
it was like
led to believe.
Yeah,
but
Hideo Kojima was like, yeah, definitely coming to the video Game
there's
Awards.
going to be a big thing in
Jeff
2018.
Keighley saying,
yeah.
oh yeah, wait for him to come, and then there was a big apology afterwards on Twitter. Oh, sorry, we couldn't make it or whatever.
No, well, we were busy making the game. Like, yeah, but come on, knock up a trailer.
Yeah,
they're weird anyway. It doesn't have to make sense.
Well, and when it comes to what I was saying earlier too, in my eyes, like the way that Sony's promotional machine turns, the cogs that work, right? The frame reference I'm using here is Days Gone. They've released very little up until about 6 months ago when a Game Informer released the behind the scenes hands-on with the game, an hour to 2 hours of gameplay, and then that's what got the whole ball rolling, and that's in the lead up to the launch, which is now going to be pushed back to April.
Yeah, it's sometime in April.
Yeah, 26th of April. So that is like around about 9 months before launch that they start really ramping up the promotion of the game, which you got to think, if that's the way Sony do things, that's the way they got to kind of do it for Death Stranding. I mean, I remember there's a lot of stuff going into God of War 2. So on that note, that kind of defeats the people who are saying, oh, it could come out of nowhere. Death Stranding might be just released one day in March or April or something, and we'll all be surprised and it'll be awesome. That's not the way that Sony do it.
Yeah, that's the thing, because Sony are the ones footing the bill. They're paying for it, so they're going to have a say in how they publish it. But then again, it's a very Kojima thing to do, to just like sleep drop it, just be like coming out now.
That's a good point. How much control does he have over the marketing going in?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the promotion of the game? Like how much how much of that is down to him? Because he does have creative control, right? His studio isn't a Sony studio. He's just working on this.
I mean, his name
them, right?
is on the studio. Kojima Productions is his company.
But he isn't owned by Sony. He's just making on this project for them.
And I'm not sure. It probably is out there somewhere, but I'm not aware if he went to Sony or Sony came to him after he left Konami, because he had the idea.
Yeah.
He already had the concept and people he wanted to work with and ideas and shit. But I don't know if he then took that and was like, look, Sony, here's a pitch. Here's what I want. Or Sony came to him like, right, we'll work with you. What have you got?
Yeah.
You got this weird thing. We'll have it.
What I would say was what's most likely to happen is once Kojima's told Sony when his launch window is, as in it's going to be ready in the first quarter of 2020. Well, as soon as he says that to Sony are then going to start preparing the promotional and the marketing. Until that happens, Sony aren't going to excuse me. Sony aren't going to start ramping up that wheel. So in my mind, this is how it works. And this is most logically how it's going to work. So Kojima's got to have set in his head when it's going to release, and he's got to share that information with Sony before we start getting gameplay or a little bit more information. However, saying that, Death Stranding is probably one of those games that will benefit from not knowing much about. Yeah,
exactly. But we currently don't really know anything. You could probably list the things we do know about it, like on your fingers. Like Norman Reedus is in it, Kojima's making it.
Yeah.
PS4 exclusive, third person. I was going to say action game, but we don't even really know that.
We don't know.
We see him pull out a gun at the end of in part of one of the trailers, but then it cuts to something else. You don't see him shoot anything. There's invisible creatures. There's babies. There's whales.
In terms of gameplay, we have very little clue other than walking across
and
mountains.
Delivering packages.
Yeah.
Surely you're going to shoot something. Like, come on.
Well, here's Hideo Kojima.
True.
I mean, there might not even be any combat in it.
Maybe. Maybe it just changes into a text adventure game.
I have to take this opportunity to apologise to the listeners and the viewers for my incessant coughing, because I've not been very well this week.
Oh.
And not that I'm trying to garner any sympathy, because I wouldn't do some shit like that. But it might go somewhere to explaining my decreased mental capacity today. So you might have to carry me a little bit in terms of conversation. If I start like spewing my guts up and stuff. Not that I've got much mental capacity on a normal day, but
I mean, you said it, not me.
Because it's true.
Well, yeah, Death Stranding could be 2019, could be 2020. We don't know, but
it's worth speculating. We're talking about people like
exactly.
People
there was a guy commenting saying, "Oh, there's no point speculating until we have any concrete proof." I'm like, okay, so we're just never going to talk about anything ever. Like, here's just fact. Yeah. Here's a fact. There's no discussion to be had around it because it is a fact. There is no interpretation. And the thing is, when we do get a release date, if they are like, here you go, it's out October 28th. Okay.
Nice.
End of conversation. Just done.
Let's not talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Because we only talk about facts here.
Yep.
Because that's what we do. We talk about facts. That's not exactly how it works. Anyway, the second video was not the gaming news episode that everybody loves. It's not divisive at all. Everybody absolutely loves this, and everybody's thumbing it up because it's just pure comedy gold, right?
Yeah, let's say that. It's definitely something. Definitely something.
Yeah, it's, again, our attempt at comedy, which we happen to think is quite funny for the majority part, and we enjoy making them.
Yeah. Some
people don't, because it's not in line with some of the content which we produced in the past as a channel. I get that. People will disengage with the content because they don't like the comedy. It doesn't suit them, and not watch. That's fine. That's completely fine. You don't have to be a tit about it. You know what I mean? But there's enough people.
Same with everything, really. Just don't be a tit.
There's enough people liking it that to keep us motivated. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This is the best content on YouTube. I think one of the comments was. I mean, you
can't argue with that. No.
I mean, that is my fact now. You talk about like relative.
I mean, the best people
facts.
Are the ones who are well aware that it is shit.
I think like, the main point. Well, it's not so much shit, but the main point, the intent is to make people laugh, right? If people get offended by the jokes, then it's just not the right comedy for them, right? That's just how comedy works. If they're getting upset because of the way we've said something. Then just go and watch something else. Our intent is never to offend anybody.
Exactly. And comedy doesn't always inform your belief system. You say something because it's funny. It's why
because
dark jokes are funny.
Exactly, because it garners a laugh. Because it garners somebody's,
because you're like, oh, you shouldn't have said that. Ha ha ha.
That's part of what comedy is, right?
It's like some of the biggest comedians around, fucking Bill Burr, Jim Jeffries. They say very offensive things a lot of the time. I don't necessarily believe them, but they say them because it's fucking funny.
Exactly. Anyway. Enough on that. We are having enough fun making There's Not the Gaming News, and so long as you guys keep commenting and telling us that is the best content on YouTube, we will definitely keep making them. So
yeah,
it's definitely worth it.
I did see one comment that did make me chuckle because its simplicity was everything. It's just, this is fake news. I'm just like, yes, you're
exactly what it is. He's got nailed it.
Because you look at it out of context and it's just him being, oh, it's fake news, it's bullshit, it's not real. But in context, he's like, fucking on the same wavelength.
He's on there. So, what games have you been playing this week, Henry?
I've been playing a little top-down twin-stick shooter called Hong Kong Massacre, and I had to check the name because I keep getting it mixed up whether it's Hong Kong or Tokyo.
It's the Hong Kong Massacre.
Yeah.
The is the button. The button. We've both been playing this, right? We got a key. It was released early in the week. I think it was Tuesday.
Something like that.
So tell us a little about the game, or tell the viewers and listeners about the game.
So from their own little website, The Hong Kong Massacre is a fast-paced top-down shooter set in the city of Hong Kong. Inspired by Hong Kong action movies, the game lets the player engage in hard-boiled gunfights around the city in levels ranging from restaurants to building rooftops. Hard-boiled gunfights, is that an expression? Like hard-boiled? Like an egg?
Comparison with eggs.
Yeah.
It's not the best promotional line, is it?
Do you have scrambled gunfights? Well, I guess you kind of do if there's people like on the floor and shit. Do you have fried? I don't know.
I mean, it's not. It doesn't sell it to me. You know what I mean? It's not.
No.
If they were selling eggs and they said it was hard boiled, then I'd know specifically
what you're getting.
Yeah.
But anyway,
didn't do anything for me.
Set in Hong Kong around.
Just before you carry on, I'm just going to get a drink. You carry on, okay?
Righto. Flying solo. Right. Set in Hong Kong around 1992, the game follows a former police detective set out to seek vengeance for his partner, who was brutally killed by the Triad. The game features slow motion and dive dodge mechanics to aid the player engage in epic gunfights. Every shot is deadly, so there is no room for mistakes. Each level contains not only enemies to kill, but different challenges for the player to complete that unlocks weapons and equipment. So the key bit to remember there is every shot is deadly. So they all die in one hit, great, but so do you.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it a little bit more challenging, because the bullets are tiny. They're, like, if you you can't necessarily, you can, but it's going to be hard, but you can't really avoid them because they're tiny and fast, so you don't necessarily have the opportunity to just step out of the way, which is where this dodge mechanic comes in, which is what makes it really interesting, because you can like kick through a door, hit the dodge button, you do a roll, and then all bullets coming towards you, you dodge, you like slide under them or cartwheel around them.
You're invulnerable while you're in dodge mode.
Yeah, for a couple frames.
Seconds, but you can't spam it, so there's definitely a period of vulnerability in between the dodges.
There's a cooldown.
And you've also got the ability to slow down time, which really helps
slow motion.
So it is very difficult to begin with, because you've got these two buttons as well as moving around, and we're playing out on PC, by the way. So it is available on
PS4, but not Xbox.
Not Xbox, which is
it's a little odd.
Important. The gameplay is very tight and very fun.
Yes.
Right? Add that to the aesthetic, which we haven't talked about yet. The gameplay is very much like Hotline Miami. And the Hotline Miami game is a very controversial series if you've seen that, because there was one scene in it, but I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah. But anyway, it's a top-down shooter in that vein, but the aesthetic of it is like cyberpunk.
It's just kind of like gritty Hong Kong underworld. Everything's kind of dirty and crap, but there's this like neon sheen to a lot of it.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's very cool, because you add that to like the particle effects and stuff. And when you're shooting and the destruction in the environments,
you can shoot through certain walls and windows.
It's a very satisfying mechanic. Gameplay mechanic.
And you've got to keep moving, because there's people shooting at you and they've got all kinds of weapons, pistols, like machine guns, shotguns, whatever. There's bullets everywhere, and if you're not dodging and moving, you're going to die.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of like the Matrix sometimes,
Yes.
where you burst into a room and there's like maybe 3 enemies shooting, and then you can slow down time. So and you can also do like the Neo kind of
the
jump
rolls and
upside
shit,
down and vault and stuff. And it's very satisfying. It can lead to very satisfying situations where you vault into a room in slow motion, bullets are flying everywhere, and you're taking out 3 guys within a second. And there are certain moments that are like, yes, this is fucking fun.
Like the Matrix is one thing that really comes up for me because the slow-mo, but also John Wick, because those movies are brilliant. Because like, I don't know if you've seen them, but pretty much any time he shoots someone, it's one shot and they're dead.
Yeah,
and it's so efficient, and it's just so satisfying to watch because the fight choreography is so well put together. It's none of this shaky cam bollocks. So you jump into the room, you shoot everyone, and because they're all dead in one hit, job's done.
Yeah.
But you also get different kinds of weapons. So if you've got, I think you can get a pistol, which you can then upgrade a bit, so you can have like extra magazines, or you can dual wield. You get shotgun, you get SMGs, which is easily the best one.
The best,
easily the best
without
one.
a doubt.
Or like an assault rifle.
Yeah.
And you can dual wield the SMGs as well.
Yeah, so there's a level of progression where you use... there's certain challenges at each level. It's like 3 challenges. So you do it within a time limit. You do it without slowing down time. And also there's like a one that varies.
Yeah, it's without... Sometimes it's without like destroying any of the environments. You're just killing the human characters.
Or every bullet hits a character. So based on these...
really difficult to do.
Difficult. Based on these 3 challenges per round, you can earn like credits or stars or whatever, and use those stars to unlock progress, unlock these parts of your weapons. So I fully unlocked the SMG straight away because that is easily the best one. So I've got a double the amount of starting ammunition and also 2 magazines as well. So I went from 30 bullets to 120 bullets at the start of a round. Also, I've got increased movement speed as well as bullet speed.
Like velocity.
Yeah, no, the amount of rounds per minute. Bullets that come out every time you press it. So it's so good. You can just spam that fucker. You just run into a room. You don't even have to slow down time. You just literally... It's like a fucking minigun or something. It's so good.
But in some of the slightly harder levels, there's a lot of guys. So you will run out of ammo if you're not being economical with just clicking and shooting and not just spraying. So then you got to pick up the other guys'
You can pick up enemies' weapons, but you can also pick up the enemy's weapons to get the ammo, but then swap it back out for the one you've just dropped. So if you run out of ammo with the SMG, you can pick up a handgun, drop the handgun, pick up the SMG again, and you'll have a limited amount of bullets. You'll have like 30 bullets. Yeah. So you can kind of reload your weapon by just picking up and dropping. I don't know if that's intentional or what. You can also reload a shotgun, for example, with bullets from a handgun, which is weird. But
I hadn't noticed that.
And shotguns, by the way, are super powerful. Short range.
Yeah, very short range.
So they're very... I don't know. I don't use it that well because
I don't want to get that close to anyone.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the distance is your friend, right? The distance you have between you and the enemy, and you can shoot through doors as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
like you really shoot a door and it flips open, and then because if they're standing behind the door, they don't know you're there. You can't see them. Shoot the door, flip it open like a saloon kind of door or something.
It just swings.
It swings on its hinges, and then you take them out, and it's so sweet to do things like that.
So there's like a handful of maps per day or something, because you go to these areas and there'll be like a rooftop, a restaurant, a alleyway, blah blah blah, and then you skip to the next one and it's like 3 days earlier or something.
Yeah. So the story starts out where you're talking in an office with like a police. I didn't follow it too. The story isn't really that important or very good either. I must say that about it. For all the compliments that were given this game, the story isn't great.
It's just not really present.
It's not really that necessary.
It's a framing device more than anything.
Yeah. So you start out having a conversation saying, oh, this is what happened 3 days ago. So, and then you jump back and then you start playing the game as in you're living out what happened 3 days ago. So that whole day or that whole period that he's describing in the office, right, sets out like a level. So there might be 6 stages during this one level, at the end of which you've got a boss fight.
Yeah, the boss fight.
Which is really good. It's a thing that Hotline Miami didn't have, and I think it's a really good addition.
They're quite challenging as well, because they can still kill you in one hit, but they've got an actual health bar. So you've got to wind them down, and there's other idiots in the thing that you got to deal with.
Yeah. And it's like a level that goes from bottom to top here now, and you can't get into access these. The boss is on the right hand side, and you can't access the area that he's in. So you have to every time you hit him, he kind of moves up
Yeah.
up the level. So you've got to move parallel with him, trying to take him out behind the cover
Yeah.
and stuff at the same time as there are enemies on your side as well. Like you said,
Yeah.
one shot kill, but for them, you've got to take 6 or 7 shots or 8
Yeah.
shots to kill them. It's a very interesting take on
Yeah.
this whole gameplay mechanic.
And like some of the enemies can dodge as well. So they'll like you burst into a room, you focus, you're taking out a bunch of guys, and then there's some idiot round who's just cartwheeling over and over, and then just gets the jump on you. And part of the reason I really like the difficulty is because it respawns you pretty much instantly.
Yeah,
There's like a second or two loading and you're back. Because the problem with a lot of these very challenging games is that you'll get really far and then you'll die. And not only do you have to get all that progress again, you have to wait ages for it to load back up. And that really jars me. It's like playing Bloodborne's one I reference a lot because of the challenge. And I thought it was very challenging and everything like it's supposed to be, but then you've got to wait for ages every time you die, and I just can't be arsed with it. I just want to get stuck in and fight the challenge, and face the challenge.
Which is really good. I'm just Googling here the price of it. Do you know the price? Because we didn't actually pay for it. We got it sent.
No, I thought it was about 13 to 15 on Steam, I think.
It's an indie game developed by Resky. Designed by Anders Florin, self-published as well. Yeah. By Resky. 78 on Metacritic that I'm looking at here. Although on Google reviews in 94%, 7.9% by IGN. I don't even know where it is on Steam.
I think it's about 7 on Steam. I think I read somewhere.
78% on the Metacritic. So that's quite important because if you're paying $15 for a 7 or 8 out of 10 game, which I think it is.
Yeah.
And from what I've played of it, I've probably played 3/4 of the game. I've completed it. That weighs into your equation of whether the game's worth it or not, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the gameplay is really tight, really solid. I think it is a really good game in terms of action. Just jump in and play
very
for 5
arcadey.
minutes. Arcadey. There's no. You don't have to. It doesn't tie you into any sort of story. It's not heavy. There's nothing to it other than action gameplay, and that is the beauty of it because it's simple. Although it's very difficult to start with.
Yes,
we should talk about the difficulty a little bit.
You'll walk into a room and you're probably going to die quite quickly, but then over time you'll figure out where people are, and their routes aren't always exactly the same. They vary a little bit. Like one guy might be turning left down the corridor as opposed to right. So you go in, and by the time you've finished it, you know exactly where everyone is, and it's just
pretty much
super efficient gun placement.
So the idea is you take everybody out on one level, and the level finishes. You go on to the next one, but to begin, until you get used to the pace of it, because it's very fast, you will die all the time.
Yeah, a lot.
And it could be frustrating if it, like you said, if it didn't respawn you really quickly. Also, a nice touch is for me is the soundtrack.
Yes,
I really like the music.
Really cool.
I think it's really cool. It's good. This is one song with like the slap bass and it's very funky and very upbeat,
but all like dark electronic as well.
Yeah, a lot of dark electronic music in it too. It's a really good soundtrack, and unfortunately, it's not available on Spotify or whatever. It'd be cool. I just listen to that. I very rarely say this, but I would listen to that soundtrack in my spare time.
Yeah.
About a game, I really say that.
One thing I think is cool is because it's an indie game as well. The studio, as we said, Vresky, they're a 2-person studio, according to them on their website. So it's just these two guys in Malmo, I think, if that's correctly said, in Sweden. Sweden,
Swedish.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Two guy team.
I think we've just about covered most of it. Let me just check the price of it. So on Steam, it's got 7 out of 10 reviews, and the price is 10% off at currently £13.94, so it's around $15 or whatever if you're in America. Released on the 26th of Jan. It's got this. It's such a. If you don't have to look at it once to figure out whether you like it or not, because the aesthetic is so good. Yeah. For me, I mean, personal taste, I think it looks spectacular. For an indie game for £13.
It's the particle effects and when bullets hit stuff and all that. It's very gory as well.
Yeah.
Like you shoot people, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah. I've played higher budget games that cost me a lot more, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed the gameplay in this. It's pure gameplay. It's pure fun, action, high octane stuff. And if you're into it, I would highly recommend it. Because
I do love a good twin stick shooter.
Yeah, and forget that it says 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or whatever. You're only spending £14 or whatever. and you know you're going to get a limited
Yep.
gameplay, but I would recommend it.
My only fault is that I could do with a little bit more story, but then again, I'm like, well, that's just distracting me from killing these fools.
That's true. That's true. There you go. There you have it. Those is our thoughts
The Hong Kong Massacre.
on the Hong Kong Massacre.
Recommend.
Check it out or don't check it out, but we are having a lot of fun playing it.
Absolutely.
So that is that done. What are we going to move on to next?
So there's a game you may or may not have heard of called Dreams.
Dreams.
Kind
of heard of it. Know very little about it.
Yeah. I'm not sure I do, to be honest.
What the fuck is it, Henry?
What the fuck is Dreams? Right. So this is a PS4 exclusive that's coming out some point this year. We don't know when, but they have said 2019. Pretty sure they've made that quite clear.
Yep.
A studio called Media Molecule, who you might know as the folks who did Little Big Planet.
Yes.
Which is one of the games I've never played, because it was PS3, and in that generation I was on Xbox. And I always thought it looked so cool, and I was super jealous of it, but I never actually got to play it. But Media Molecule, their kind of approach seems to be kind of user-friendly, but that's a bit misleading, but kind of user-friendly and creative-minded experiences for consumers. And this Dreams one is essentially a game engine. So, but
yeah, that's the way you could describe it.
Yeah,
it is an engine of. It is a collection of tools
to create
that you can use creatively. To make what you want.
Yes, and I say user friendly because compared to something like the Unreal Engine, it definitely is user friendly. However, they have said that there's lots of tutorials, like hours worth of tutorials, to teach you how to do certain things and learn these techniques essentially from scratch.
Yeah.
But I just think the sheer possibilities in terms of creativity are awesome.
It does. It's a very unique concept for a game, right?
Yes.
Because it doesn't feel like a game, because a game usually you've got a story, you've got action, gameplay, whatever. This is more like a creative suite.
Yeah,
more than
essentially,
anything, right? This is like a bit of software that you would use as a creator to do something. And I think that's really awesome. I think it's an awesome idea. And I think that it appeals to maybe not everybody. It's got a pretty limited appeal. But what I've seen you can do with this stuff is amazing. So first off, I've seen, I think it was praise being, like, I know for certain the PT demo was recreated in it, which looks great.
Very faithfully.
It looks so good. And also the Prey
Prey.
Version of Prey, the game Prey from Bethesda, was recreated using it. If, it just shows there the kind of contrast of things that you can make with these tools. It just goes to show, like, what else can you fucking make with it?
I think if you are in any way creative, especially like visually creative, like wanting to make like art or a film or even a game, because they don't just want you to make games with this, they want you to make whatever you want. People are making like short films on it because you can set up your camera angles and then or change lighting, all that, or you can record your own music, because there's loads and loads and loads of sound samples that you can put in and then bend the pitches and alter them and twist them around and stuff. And I just think it's such sheer creativity, but in like the most guided way they could possibly do it with this kind of thing.
I think it's brilliant for creative-minded people and people who want to get in depth, because it's the problem with producing games or making games or making video or making music or anything like that is there's always a barrier to entry in terms of you need to know so much shit.
You have to learn.
You have to learn software. You have to learn about all technical aspects of creating the particular media that you want to make. Whereas what Media Molecule are doing here, who are the developers, if you haven't said that, are they creating this game Dreams, which will make it so much more accessible for the creative-minded person to get started with making some really fun, really creative stuff in an easy, very accessible, I've said that already, but in an accessible way. Yeah,
as a first step to maybe the next thing. And even if you're not good at building things or having the imagination to create these characters and everything, they've got this share space where you can upload your designs of things. You can upload your character models, your environmental objects, like your version of a tree or your version of a rock or something like that that you've modeled. You can upload your music, and then you can pull that from this share space. So, I need a collection of trees, but I don't know how to make a tree.
Yeah.
So you go to essentially the tree library and pull down the ones you want.
Trees. Sounds awesome.
So, and
sounds
like,
really good.
even if you're not creatively minded, I think it's great as well, because obviously people can upload their projects.
Yeah.
And then you have a theoretically infinite amount of games to play, because people are going to continue producing content for you.
Exactly. I think this game will do really well because of, I mean, that
over time, for sure.
Longevity.
Yeah.
It's got that nailed for sure. And I think for the people who might be really good at making character models or making them specific, to be able to share with the world and their specific talents, and also reap the rewards of other people's talents, as in we pool our resources together, and
they really want people to be collaborative. So you can work together. You're a really good character modeler, I'll work with you because I'm a really good level designer, and then we'll contact this person who's really good at writing specific kinds of music, and together we'll make this really interesting game thing.
I think the question marks for me is how it's going to work in terms of interface. That's the big one for me. But I think that a concept, as a sheer concept, this has got legs. And I think that it sounds like such a value for money proposition in terms of if you're the kind of person who doesn't have a lot of money to spend on games every year, and you want to put your money into something that's going to give you the most amount of enjoyment over the course of the year. If that is a primary consideration for you and you're creatively minded, this should be very exciting for you.
It's like I've only recently kind of got onto it, because I heard the name Dreams. I knew it was this kind of creative thing, but I was looking at it this week and I was just like, this just looks really fucking cool for just the sheer possibilities of it. Their only kind of, not worry, but something I need to work out on a more legal basis is ownership. Like, if you create a character, do you own that, or do Dreams own that? And if it is possible to monetize it, that's not a thing for launch or anything, but in an ideal world, they'd love to have a section on the PlayStation Store which is like created by Dreams. So like you can purchase these things, but that's a conversation they need to have later on.
Okay.
And then the other thing is with regards to licensed products. So if you want to get a Star Wars based thing, or a superhero based thing with Batman and Superman and everyone.
So if you, for example, if you make Darth Vader, or if you recreate one of the levels in Battlefront 2, or just something like that, where you're using an already established copyrighted, excuse me, franchise was just copyrighted. And
are you infringing on that? Because you're not paying for it. So what are the legal implications and ramifications of that? Can Disney just come along and shut it down and be like, no, you're not allowed to do that? Because they do that quite a lot. They're quite hot on stuff. If it's not approved by them, they will shut it down. Like recently there was a Star Wars fan film about Darth Vader, and crowdfunded to put together but not monetized on YouTube. The guy who owns the channel didn't put ads on it or anything because he wants it for the fans and everything. So Disney struck it with a takedown notice, and then monetized it themselves and kept it up, but all ads were put on it. All money was then going to them, and it's just like, well, like what the fuck? The creator, he was just like, I don't even care about you stealing this. If you want to have your brand on it and have it under your like umbrella, that's fine. Just don't like put ads on it, because that's not what this is about. But then apparently Lucasfilm themselves, who I thought just completely didn't exist, but I guess the Lucasfilm person, I can't remember who it is, but the people at the top have then said to Disney, all right, no, this belongs to this person. Because before the absorption, if that's the word, before Disney ate up Lucasfilm, they were quite creator driven with like fan films and all that kind of stuff. So if people are making Star Wars-y things in Dreams, there are certain worries that Media Molecule have.
Yeah, so whether they're culpable for that, whether they're responsible for the content that's been made on a third-party basis.
But one thing they have said that you can just completely get around it is it's not a problem if you don't share it. So if you want to make a Star Wars game, brilliant, go ahead, but keep it on your thing. Don't upload it to the share space.
Unfortunately, I'm almost dying here. So we're going to have to go for a short break and come back with the questions and comments for the second part of the podcast. So don't go anywhere. It's not going to be that long. And I will get a warm drink, and I promise you I'll be at least 20% better after the break. So just be right back. Okay, we're back. Thank you very much for that little bit of break that you've allowed me to recoup my bodily functions. I've got a warm drink, so hopefully I won't. I think what it was is the water's cold, and if you've got a bad throat, that cold water just seizes up.
Room temperature is what you want. That's the way.
Yeah. So I've got now hot coffee, which is gonna, turn my mental capacity up to at least 2, and also ease my throat, which is good. So where were we? We're talking about dreams, right? So
yes.
The last thing I want to say about dreams before we move on is, if I'm going to have to create these awesome levels using a PlayStation controller, that's going to be a huge barrier for me.
Yeah, that is something, no mouse and keyboard support, because that feels more natural for creating these sort of things.
I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a PC gamer and I'm not as familiar with controllers as maybe a lot of other gamers who are, such as yourself maybe. But it's just like this type of input, it doesn't allow the same freedom as a mouse, be able to move quickly. I think it's the speed of maneuverability which is the issue.
I think when it comes to dreams, like rotating stuff, I'm like having a mouse, because then I can like click it and grab it and move it with my own hands. But they've said they think the best way to play is with 2 PlayStation Move controllers.
Well, that's interesting.
Which is, so then you can use, your gestures to really get into it and get precise with it. And there's loads of like shortcuts, like motion shortcuts, like you bang them together and it changes the shape of it or something. And the developers, they're so used to it by now. They're doing all this highly skilled nonsense, but with all these crazy hand gestures.
It's like anything. Once you learn typing, you know where the keys are, you can do it without thinking, right? And that sounds really cool. As well as the proposition of maybe tying that in with the VR, PlayStation VR. And if you could create a level or something, level design it in a 3D environment, like with the VR set, and you've got these Move controllers in order to do that. That sounds a bit like it's super sci-fi futuristic type of thing, isn't it? It's Minority Effect, is it, where he's like doing all this thing. Anyway, there's plenty of sci-fi TV shows where he's controlling computers with his hands. Is what I'm thinking. But
it's like all that holograms and shit.
Yeah, it's that type of thing where you can be in the space you're creating at the same time, which is
like,
be really cool.
I'm fiddling with my interface there. I'm like, right, I want a tree there, so you just grab it and put it there and do what you got to do.
That sounds cool, but then again, we don't know much about this game, and hopefully, well, there probably is enough information out there. Apparently, there's a beta going on at the moment.
Yeah,
it's a closed beta, and there's various different times. Yeah, 17th January, 23rd of January, 23rd of January, which have all gone by now, but still, I think there's one.
There's plenty of footage out there of what people have created, because they've live streamed a lot of it.
Yeah.
So they've just picked out, we think this thing's really cool. Just seeing what people create. There was one thing in particular that a whole group of people worked on, because they're making this game anyway, and they just used it to create the asset.
Yeah.
And it's just a model. It doesn't do anything. It's just a render of it, and it's this crazy weird like deep sea fish, like cuttlefish, with like the massive teeth and that like translucent weird skin. It was that kind of thing, and it looked fucking awesome. And the fact that a team of people made that in dreams shows what you can accomplish if you're good enough, and obviously work together with other people.
I think at some point it's your imagination is the barrier, right? And hopefully dreams can facilitate that, where there's so many tools at your disposal. Whatever you can conceive of, you can do. Exactly. And I think that's the beauty. That's how that's how to gauge how any of these types of softwares, how good any of these types of softwares is. If you reach a technical barrier that stops you from being able to achieve your creative, your ambition, that's where it falls down, right? So let's just hope that it can facilitate as many dreams as possible. Yep. And on that note, on that beautiful note, I think we should move on.
Let's go watch Inception.
What a great film Inception is, man.
So what, that'd be my first like project. Would be to just create Inception.
We're like this kind of
the city like folds up,
city folds up,
or the staircase that's all like connected, but it's not. It's fucking weird, man.
Why haven't they made an Inception game?
Oh, I've been saying
That'd
this.
be so good.
But I think it's just because it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's just so weird, and to have like that truly like limitless freedom.
Do you think that time is one of the concepts in Death Stranding? Maybe.
It's probably the closest
maybe when you
thing.
die, right? You're a baby or whatever.
Yeah,
there's
you
a
enter
baby
this-
in your stomach
yeah.
and all that sort of nonsense. I don't know. I'm very aware that I'm grasping here, but
Reach for that theory.
I'm an imaginative guy. You know.
I did see someone comment on the Death Stranding video about a theory that they didn't like necessarily subscribe to, but they noticed, and it was that Death Stranding is going to be Metal Gear Zero or something, and that's all to do with the year of the whale and the whale symbolism, and the fact that in the Metal Gear Solid 5 trailer, there's a big like fiery whale thing that flips out. And I'm like,
True.
I mean,
Well,
I get that there's a link, but I don't think you're right.
Death Stranding refers to
It's when they
whales
beach.
when they beach themselves,
Yeah.
so that all ties.
Apparently,
in.
I completely
Doesn't need
butchered
a
the
third.
pronunciation of that. Apparently, it's cetacean or something,
Right.
and I said cetacean, and I'm like, I don't know what the fucking word is. Wikipedia didn't give me the phonetic spelling, so I don't fucking know.
I mean,
I'm not
it's
a marine
not your
biologist.
place to know. It's on here on YouTube.
I'm not
talking
smart enough
words.
for this sort of shit.
Who cares about how you
At
talk
least I
words
know
when you
what
do
it
it for a living,
means.
eh, Henry?
How many of you people don't even know what it means? Intellectual elitism.
Anyway,
Anywho,
let's
moving
talk,
on.
talking about intellectually elites. Let's have a look at what some of the patrons have been saying, because there's some intellectual elites there.
Definitely smarter than we
That's
are,
for sure.
but not smart enough to leave our content. You're still here and haven't realised how stupid we are.
Yeah, I think we would remind them of what, like...
At least I'm not that bad.
Yeah, base humanity, you know what I mean? The base level humanity. Make them feel good about themselves because we're the stupid ones.
Yeah.
So, first question comes from a Rogue Request. This is the big one, and we're going to dive deep into this, right? So, bear with us.
It's a whole paragraph.
Excuse me, I'll take a sip. He says, with Epic Store and the fact that Division 2 is going to be exclusive to it, other than the Ubisoft launcher, so as in Division 2 is not going to Steam, it's going to the Epic Store. Although Uplay, it will be on Uplay.
Yeah,
okay, so
and it's going to be on consoles and that.
Yeah. There are a lot of people saying that third-party exclusives are anti-consumer. What do you think about that? Is it worse for a company to buy exclusives than to have their own devs make their exclusives? I'm kind of on the fence. I don't have a problem with Sony using God of War to sell PS4s. On the other hand, Rise of Tomb Raider going Xbox-timed exclusive really pissed me off. For instance, I find it hard to get mad at Ubi and Epic for making Division 2 exclusive to the Epic Store when I'd be completely okay with CD Projekt Red doing the same as Cyberpunk 2077 on GOG, which is a slightly different scenario because CD Projekt Red are owned by CD Projekt, who also own GOG. So it makes business sense for them because it works for their parent company if they're exclusive on GOG.
It's like if Fortnite was exclusive to Epic Store because Epic own it.
Yeah,
or Gears 5 was exclusive to it because they own. Well, they don't own that anymore anyway.
Yeah.
Ignore that.
Yeah, and in the case of Division 2, it's a little bit different because Ubisoft own that, and they are selling the game on Uplay, as well as the Epic Store. They're just not going to Steam. Yeah. So that little bit of exclusivity what do we think about that? And is it worse for a company to buy exclusives than to have their own? So this is not like the traditional Sony exclusive type of argument where why the hell does Sony games exclusive to consoles? Why can't I get the big Sony exclusives on my Xbox? Yeah. Which is I mean that conversation explains itself, doesn't it? These games wouldn't get made by Sony, and unless they were able to be made in order to sell Sony consoles.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason they exist.
Sony are making it, Sony are fitting the bill for Death Stranding, Last of Us, all those. Why shouldn't they have exclusive? Same with Microsoft. What they're behind Halo and Gears of War.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they? It's when they're not. If you're making your own console, if you're a company which owns your own console and you're making your own games as well, why not? Yeah. But if you're not the company who owns that console and owns that
platform,
if like the Tomb Raider example, Microsoft don't own the Tomb Raider license. I think Square do at the moment, Square Enix.
Yeah. On that note, it makes total sense that Sony would keep the games on their platform because they make money selling Sony games on a Sony platform. They make a double whammy, right? It wouldn't make sense for them to sell on Xbox. It's just capitalism. That's how it works. However, these timed exclusives, we got a Tomb Raider going Xbox timed exclusive pisses me off. I get that. I get that peeve. But again, it's like it's another way of making money, right? You think about PUBG. It released exclusively on the Xbox before it went to PlayStation 4, and I can see why PlayStation 4 people would get pissed off at that. However, it's all about money, right? At that point, it's about being able to keep generating these games in future in a financial stable possible, or it's either that or someone's greedy taking home loads of money. I mean, it's not for us to kind of well, it is for us to judge, but it's not for us to
I can't dictate how they should do it, but I do think it's bullshit.
It's not nice. It's not nice.
Like the one that's got me is the Devil May Cry 5 one, because I'm very conflicted on that game anyway, because from a story point of view, from a gameplay point of view, I'm totally really want to play it, really want to try it. But then there's the microtransactions thing, which could hamper the entire fucking experience if they go the way of Shadow of War, but hampering your progression to force you to do it. We don't know yet. But I can't even try the gameplay because they had a timed demo, a limited run demo on Xbox only. I'm like, that's just dumb. Well, I've talked about this before. It's stupid to me. Because no one's buying an Xbox for Devil May Cry, right? I don't think, if anything, it would make more sense for it to be a Sony thing. Yeah. And then they've got this other demo coming out for both in February. I just think it's completely illogical. But
well, I mean, if they've got money from let's take this Division 2 example, right? If they've got a lump sum of money from Epic in order to sell on the platform, or it might just be something as simple as if Ubisoft sell Division 2 on the Epic Store, they're making a lot, the Epic Store are taking a lot less commission than the likes of Steam. Steam take a 30% cut. Epic take, what was it, 12%?
Something like that.
8 or 12. Yeah. I forget the figures. I probably should know that. But it's so much less that it just doesn't make sense maybe in Ubisoft's mind to put it on the Epic Store. I add that to the fact that Epic are more than likely lowering that commission anyway. Maybe it's probably close to 5%, even less than that. But that's just my speculation. That's my thing. So it just kind of makes sense.
I don't really blame Ubisoft for wanting to go to Epic because that deal just sounds way better than going with Steam. However, I agree. Why shouldn't people who use Steam be able to play the Division 2? But then again, just get the just get the Epic thing. It's free.
Just play devil's advocate here and say that there's no barrier there.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, I want to play Halo, so I need to buy an Xbox. Yeah. No, you can just download the launcher.
The software is free. You don't have to pay for the Epic launcher, and I'm assuming the games are similarly priced as still would be on Steam. But the thing with the Epic, the benefit of the Epic launcher is that if you buy a game on there, not that I'm trying to sell it here, this is just a fact, that the developer does get more a bigger share of that money. If you want to support the
artist, that's the way to go.
So I mean, I know it's convenient for the consumer to stick to one platform like Steam, but people make decisions because it serves their interest, right? And this is why Division is on Epic Store, because it's in their interest to do so. Now, who are we? I mean, we can dislike that, that's fine, and we can call them out for that shit. I mean, we can say it's bad, they shouldn't do that, we don't like that. That's just our opinion. But from a business sense, because this is what they're doing, they're running businesses, maybe it's the best decision for them. And Steam just needs to rethink. This is good for Steam because they need to rethink, hang on a minute, we don't want to lose all these big games on our platform because people will just start migrating to Epic Store, and that's exactly what Epic want. And hopefully that will end up, what it will end up with is Steam being more competitive in order to entice these bigger publishers back over to their platform.
And they'll have to lose this monopoly that they've got because they're the most popular because they've got the most stuff, and until recently there wasn't enough of a different option. I mean, GOG was there, but their library is much more limited.
Yeah, it's more indie curated games, isn't it?
And the DRM thing is a big motivator for people who go to GOG. But now Epic, if they can establish a similar sort of library and user base, then they can be a real threat.
Yeah, they're playing a good game, I think, Epic at the moment. And I think if this news does frustrate you that you can't use Steam to get to play the Division 2 or whatever, and if it is like, oh fuck, you know, and it really annoys you, at least take comfort in the fact that Steam might have to pull the fingers out their arses and improve conditions for these developers and for other people, other than just being so like self-orientated, which I think they have been for so long now.
Epic is still the new kid on the playground, right? They've only formed recently, and they're already getting people wanting to be exclusive to them. So they've only just started, but they're already, you know, gaining real ground.
They've got a good strategy, and I think what it is essentially is they're throwing money at these developers, not in the sense that they're getting a bulk lump sum for coming to the platform. Maybe they do in some cases, because
there'll be a thing to it.
Yeah, but there is a monetary incentive to go exclusive to their platform, because you know, they take less of a cut than Steam, because that's what it boils down to. It boils down to money a lot, and in a lot of sense. It will be,
all right, we'll give you X amount of money, and for every purchase you'll get this much on top of that. So it's going to be more money in the long term. Yeah,
and I don't know how the free games work, or what type of deal that they've got, because there was What Remains of Edith Finch that was free last week. I don't know, a week before, whatever. They're throwing free games at you anyway to try and entice new players over. So they've probably worked out some sort of deal with the developers there in terms of giving them a lump sum in order to give their game out. But that's what they've got, right? That's the beauty of the position that they're in. They've got all this Fortnite cash sitting there lying around, and they're going to use some of that cash to try and get themselves a foothold in the market and the PC gaming market. So good luck to them is what I say, because I want Steam to be more competitive. A competitive market is always good for the consumer.
Forces Steam to be better.
Yeah, I mean, as annoyed as you can get about having to go to... I mean, this is a very specific exclusives discussion. This isn't an exclusive discussion between Sony exclusive and an Xbox exclusive. This is an exclusive platform, which I kind of, for me, is a moot point, because everyone can go to Epic and get the Epic launcher for free. So it's not really a barrier. It's just like an inconvenience more than anything. So... I mean, hopefully some of that rationale there has quelled your frustration. However, DK Coley chimes in. I think exclusives are bad, end of. And I think he's talking specifically about console exclusives, I think. Why would you limit your audience, especially this late into a console generation? I can see why you would have exclusives at launch and early doors. You're limiting your sales late in a cycle.
But again, why should Sony do that? Why should they put it on other systems? They're not losing anything, because they are massively ahead of Microsoft in terms of unit sales and user base and install base and all that. So why?
Someone says a specific question here. Why would you limit your audience, especially this late into a console generation? Now, Sony would limit their audience for game sales by having it exclusively on PlayStation, because they've thrown so much money into the development of that game and allowed so many resources and literally paid through the teeth to get these games to the best point they can be. God of War speaks for itself. Those reviews for that speak for itself. They've invested so much into this game that they're not using that game just to sell games. They're using this game and that product to sell consoles. And I think that in the long term is the better strategy, because the more consoles that you've got in people's houses, the more of your games that they buy overall. So it might not seem like selling less games at launch because you're on a single platform is easily negated by the fact that you're selling more games in the long run, because more people have got your consoles, because they're like, oh, what's that exclusive Sony game that I can't play because I haven't got a PlayStation? Mum, can I have a PlayStation for Christmas? Those conversations happen, and these are the knock-on effects of having so great, fantastic Sony exclusives, and that's how it works. It only works if Sony are producing these top-class, top-tier games that everybody's talking about, and it creates this huge desire.
I mean... Microsoft's two biggest franchises, definitely in past years, not necessarily anymore, Halo and Gears of War. Halo 5 and Gears of War 4 came out on this generation. No one cares. I mean, by all accounts, they're fine. They're, you know, action shooters. They're fun. Stories are adequate, but they're not as good as they could be, and no one cares. They're forgotten about. When Sony, they've blown them completely out of the water with their exclusives just this year, with Spider-Man and God of War.
I mean, last year, but
sorry. We're 2019 now, aren't we?
Yeah, two of the best games last year, hands down. My two competitors for the Game of the Year. And I think that my last year's, the more I think about it, I enjoyed playing Spider-Man than any other game. That's not to say that was the best game last year.
It's just
but
fun.
I had the best fun playing Spider-Man
Yeah.
last year out of any other game. Is that my game of the year on that basis? Maybe. But I'm not saying it's the best game overall. I'm just saying I had the most fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that speaks volumes. And God of War was easily second, if not easily top 3.
Yeah.
Those are 2 Sony exclusives, and
Exactly.
that's how they're selling this, and that's how it works for them. So again, you might get frustrated by the mindset of it because you're locked out of certain awesome games, and I can get that, especially if you're limited on a budget and you haven't got access to funds to be able to buy the other console that you might want. I totally get that, and I empathise with that. However, this is business. It's all about making money and making informed decisions in order to, make that money. Make that money. Is that what makes the world go round, guys? If you didn't know.
If you're making the game and you own a console, go for it. Make it exclusive.
Yeah.
If you don't own it, I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, I
That's
think
my line.
Personally, the only exclusives that I hate are the content exclusives.
Yeah, when you can only get this thing on this console.
Exactly. You only get this level on this console, or like early access exclusives or pre-order exclusives. They're all bullshit, and
There's
all
just no reason for it.
Well, I think I can. I appear a little bit hypocritical here because I understand why they're doing it, because they're getting money from Xbox for having exclusive level on it, playable on Xbox or whatever. But I don't know. I think there's a line that needs to be drawn in terms of how much money you need to make off a game, and if your game isn't good enough to sell enough in order to make back the costs that it took to make the game, don't be slicing off parts of a game and selling that as a pre-order bonus or selling it on a console exclusive or whatever. I think the games just need to be in one complete sum for one lump sum money that aren't chopped up, and it just seems greedy to me in that sense. But maybe I'm hypocritical there. Maybe I haven't got all the answers. That's just how it feels. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse and we'll talk about the next question. And this is another question, kind of relates. Peekapool, what do you think of Epic Games trying to compete with Steam? What do you think about their methods of doing so? Which is we've kind of touched on.
Yeah, we've kind of run past that.
What do I think? I mean, it's great because it's competition in the marketplace. What do you think about the methods of doing so? Throwing money at developers and just like creating buzz by getting exclusive games and getting free games on the platform. Methods, it makes total sense. If you have like almost unlimited resources, which you could argue that they do have at this point. $2.4 billion, I think Fortnite made last year alone. $2.4 billion. That is a huge chunk. We're talking billions here, not even... It's not even a million, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. It's 2.4 billion. That's so much fucking money.
It's going to be really interesting to see what the revenue for 2019 will be for Epic Games Store, because then they will have had a whole year. So in Q4 2019, there's going to be some serious numbers, and that's going to really be the indicator of whether or not they've done well. Whether or not they can really compete and carry on.
It's especially surprising considering that this game is free, right? They've made all that revenue off a free game. And what does that tell you, right? It doesn't matter how much you pay for a game or how much you sell a game for. What matters is that the game is good enough that people want to play it.
See, if EA want to keep doing their microtransaction practices, make Battlefield free to play.
Yeah.
Then
total sense. I mean,
then whatever.
That's the other question, isn't it? It's microtransactions. Oh, how can you defend Fortnite because of microtransactions? They've got the battle pass and all these hidden with it. Well, you don't have to pay for that.
You don't pay for the game.
You pay for nothing. They're literally giving you this,
and it's optional. Free. It's not like the game breaks if you don't buy the skins.
Yeah.
The problem with map packs is often that matchmaking gets weird because you can't matchmake with people because you have to have the latest maps. And that's when it goes a bit funky and you can't connect with people. But when it comes to all your cosmetic shit in Fortnite, it's just you get a new pickaxe or you get a new wingsuit or whatever. Or wingsuit parachute. Glider, that's the word. Glider.
Glider. Got there in the end. It's a take it or leave it basis. It's like someone's giving you a cupcake for free and you're like, oh yeah, what's the catch? No catch, but if you want icing, you've got to pay
a bit extra for sprinkles.
All right, I'll just take the cupcake then. Yeah. Or if someone says,
when you get an ice cream at a... He's dying again.
Sorry, guys.
When you get an ice cream at an ice cream van, you get your core cone and a squirt of ice cream. Do you want? You can have an extra squirt for a bit more.
Yeah.
You stick a flake in it. It's all this extra stuff.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. When it's free to begin with, the doors are open. You do what the hell you want in order to monetize your game. Fortnite are leading the charge, and for games to charge $60 and then ask you for more money on top,
it's just gratuitous.
Bullshit. But Epic, keep doing what you're doing, Epic, and hopefully the whole industry will reap the benefits of that. Next up. Can you read this, Nick? Have you got it? Can you read it?
You're getting your voice is getting broken. All right, this is from Tons on the Discord again. I was just looking at the trailer for Atomic Heart. How do you feel about AA lower budget games being absent from this generation for the most part? Seemed to me like the previous gens had some absolute gems like Red Faction or Dark Void, which were lower priced games but lots of fun. I totally agree about Red Faction and Dark Void, specifically Red Faction Guerrilla. Back to the demos thing. I'm a massive advocate for demos. I played the guts out of that demo because you had a time limit, but you could do the mission as well. Kind of like the Resident Evil demo, but you could play it as much as you want. So I just smash stuff because that's what Red Faction is all about. It's environment destruction. But then you can go back and do the mission. That's another. Why is there no Red Faction anymore? We've got all of the hardware and system power to make some really good environmental destruction games.
They made a remaster of Red Faction. I'm sure they did.
Yeah, but I think it was just like a upscale. It wasn't like a full
remake.
Yeah. So I'll do a new Red Faction-esque game or something with excellent destruction physics and all that. Because with current software and hardware and all that, it's gonna be amazing.
It would be amazing. That's true.
I want to properly pancake a building. I want to
pancake those buildings.
Yeah,
extra maple syrup and all sorts.
Dark Void as well. Dark Void was really cool. I only played the demo of that. Again, demos, but Dark Void was fun. And I totally agree. The AA tier, if that's even what we can call it, because we had an interesting discussion about what really is AAA and what really is indie. Because indie, the word means it's independent, right? So you're independently creating and publishing in that. But then if you look at Rockstar, they self-publish, but they are the AAA tier because they're budgeted and they're owned by Take-Two. So they've got all this extra funding.
Yeah,
so
Take-Two, the parent company. Rockstar Games do the publishing, and then all the
respective studios,
the development studios, Rockstar North or whatever, all these different developing studios. So although it's called Rockstar, published by Rockstar, it's still Rockstar Games, which is a publishing entity within the Rockstar.
Exactly.
It's very convoluted. It's a bit like Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda in terms of publishing and developing relationship. But it's not technically indie because they have a publisher, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's all down to terminology. So I think what Tan says here, how do you feel about the lower budget games? Sorry, about the AA lower budget games. So you got what's distinguishing here is between the higher budget AA games, and then above that it's the AAA games. So we're talking the third tier down here, just above indie. Yeah. So we've got
it'd be
AAA
indie,
games,
single A, double A, AAA.
So, no.
So
the way that I've tiered it in my head would be at the top would be AAA games.
Yeah.
And then by his distinction, a higher budget AA games, and then what he's talking about here is the lower budget AA games, and then below that, I mean, you could throw in a single A games, but I think that's too many distinctions than an indie game. But I think,
I feel like higher budget and lower budget AA should just be single A and double A.
It would be easy to do that, okay? It would a lot very easy to do that. But what we're dealing with here is a crisis of classification, right? Because indie games are classed for two very separate reasons, right? An indie game could be a game that's independently published, or an indie game could be something that has production values that indicate that it's of a lower tier. So there's two different distinctions there as to what an indie game actually represents, and which is the problem, right? It's like music, like we were talking about earlier. Indie used to be a genre of just like actual music. So an indie would be dictated by the experience that you get listening to the music, whereas now indie music is more... am I saying this correctly? Or
I think that. So it used to be you're an indie artist because you do it yourself. You record it yourself. You put the money up yourself. You tour yourself. You do everything yourself. You're not owned by a record label. That's the key one.
Exactly.
But then more recently, indie has just become a genre because loads of people at that time were writing similar sort of music, and it's that kind of light kind of pop rock.
Yeah.
Like early Arctic Monkeys and
Yeah.
that whole era of like fucking Kaiser Chiefs and all that. They became indie bands, but they're not really indie, certainly not anymore, because they are some of the biggest bands in the world.
So that's the discussion, isn't it? It's because there's two categories, it's two distinctions of what indie is.
Yeah.
And like it started out as just being independent, as in you're just on your own out there. You're not with a publisher. Whereas now indie, as we've seen in the music industry, it means a genre of music, genre, and hopefully, I mean not hopefully at all, but maybe that's why people get confused with classifications again, because we don't have enough titles for these. All it is a label, essentially.
I think indie's more like a vibe you get now, because a lot of them, they look wildly different. I mean, what's the one? Is it Stardew Valley, made by one guy in his house?
Eric Barone.
And that looks wildly different to what we were talking about earlier, the Hong Kong Massacre.
Yeah.
Which, it's only two guys, but the production value and like Hollywood look of it is completely different to that of Stardew Valley. And
then you got to talk about AAA games. Now, what is a AAA game? So there's two distinct distinctions for that, right? A AAA game could be just simply not an independently published game. It's just simply a game that gets created by a developer underneath a publisher who publishes and distributes the game. That could be one distinction of a AAA game. However, the other description of what a AAA game could be is that one that I read on Wikipedia, or that Jim Sterling likes to purport, is that a AAA game is the game with the highest production values in terms of production, marketing, publishing, and all those key indicators, right? Most amount of budget, the biggest budgets in all of these departments.
Yeah, which I think just development.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the more business-oriented practices like the marketing and all that. Yeah. Putting the trailers out, putting the viral campaigns out where, you see shit in on the streets of London, there'll be a billboard or whatever.
And in that case, there are certain independently created games that have kind of turned and been published as a AAA game. We Happy Few is one among those, which was like initially kickstarted, but then turned from this independently sourced game into when Gearbox came along and started doing the publishing. My voice is going out, I can hear it. Excuse me, guys. That turned into like a AAA game. It might not have had the biggest marketing budgets, but there's an argument to say that was a top tier AAA game. Yeah. So where is the distinction here? And I think that's what we're missing. And it's totally doesn't relate to what the question was with Tons, but it's an interesting discussion nonetheless. Let's talk specifically about what
this game, because we were really interested in this.
We're getting a little bit deep here, but the AA lower budget games, is there enough this generation, or have they been absent for the most part? I don't know. I mean, it's a crisis of classifications. Like, how do we determine what is a lower budget AA game, and do we have any?
Well, I think a lot of
Ninja Theory with Hellblade, was that a lower budget AA game? It was like 13 or 14 people worked on that game. That would probably classify. That would qualify for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the one.
Well,
I'm not looking at balance sheets and seeing how much money was spent on these games. So it's not for me to classify. But I don't think we're missing.
No, they are there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them fall by the wayside in terms of mainstream like awareness, because with these AAA games, because they've got such strong, active, aggressive marketing campaigns, they are everywhere. You'll see Call of Duty everywhere. It's on buses. It's
Far Cry and everything.
Yeah, Far Cry's, Red Dead Redemption. Like, it's not
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, all of these recognizable brand names that dominate the AAA bracket.
Yeah,
they often completely overshadow whatever else is coming out at the time. Doesn't matter how good or bad it is, because they don't necessarily have the resources to have such a insane marketing campaign. They still usually do have a decent marketing campaign. They've all got trailers, they've all got merchandising and all that kind of stuff. But it's not as in your face as when a Call of Duty comes out or a FIFA comes out or anything like that, because that dominates the gaming advertising discourse at the time. It's everywhere, and these other ones that just can't keep up.
And I think it's bad, because that's what drives what a lot of the gaming media. This is totally a conversation. I'm just going off on a tangent here, but the gaming media cover these biggest games because they've got the biggest budgets. And these developers, these publishers, have got these marketing budgets that cover our game, we'll give you exclusive access, we'll give you a lump sum or whatever. And that's where it all starts to feel a little bit... Sorry, guys, I'm completely down here. I should stop talking about as much. But that's when it starts to feel a little bit dirty, innit? It's like... There's something wrong here where these awesome games like Atomic Heart isn't getting enough recognition, by the way, which looks fucking awesome, right?
I hadn't heard of it until this came up. Yes, thanks for bringing our attention to it, Hans.
So for those of you who don't know, are you going to read
the
blurb
do you want me to read it for you?
I'll go and die.
So Atomic Heart, first-person shooter for stars. Soviet nuclear punk world, which is a really interesting label, nuclear punk. Developed by Mundfish, Steam listed as releasing sometime in 2019.
Completely independent and they've not got any previous. I don't know who makes up the development studio, but Mundfish are new to the scene by the looks of it.
They've done some VR game, which I think is in the same universe as this, and it's a lot of the same assets and ideas and shit. But I don't know anything else about it.
I'd be interested to know where they're based. We don't know that.
Yeah.
And also who the team comprises of, because maybe they've got talent from maybe they've got people who developed for big developers in the past and have broken off, because you see that quite often, don't you? Like ex-employees of CD Projekt Red are now working on their own independent things, because the way that this game looks, for those who haven't seen it, it looks like these people who are working on it are very experienced, that's for sure.
Well, immediately just after a quick Google, their tagline is Mundfish, we create video games. I like there's none of this bullshit company mottos. It's just we create video games. I like that. It's just this is what we do.
We like games, right?
We make video games, don't we? Right. Well, a lot of the this game Atomic Heart is very Russian. So I imagine, I'm just trying to find out now, that it's probably a Russian-based company, but that is an assumption.
Yeah. No, that would be a good assumption, since
I'm trying to find out how to contact you.
There's not a lot of it.
All right, where's Korea? Let's go in Korea. Let's find a job at Atomic Heart. Moscow, there we go. 3D animator, game designer, and UE4 developer. All in Moscow, so they're presumably a Russian-based company. Got there in the end.
So
what is this game? We'll get back to it.
Read the blurb.
Atomic Heart is an action RPG game. The story is all about the things that could have happened in the reality of the USSR, but didn't. Technical revolution has already occurred. Robots, the internet, holograms have already been invented. But all these innovations are immersed in the atmosphere of communism, imperialism, and the confrontation with the West. The protagonist of the game is Soviet KGB officer and his party, with a capital P. So that's very much, but obviously a political thing. And his party sends him to the facility 3826 and are waiting for the report. The world of the game consists of several regions and open parts of the surface with different biomes. It has multi-level structure with surface and underground abandoned departments of the facility. The combat system in ordinary non-PvP regions encourages the use of melee weaponry, while in PvP areas we give players more freedom and don't limit the use of firearms. Most of the enemies are a variety of combat vehicles produced at the factory. Each robot was originally made to serve the needs of the Soviet industry or to help Soviet citizens in daily life. The robots are implemented with a combat... Start that one again. The robots are implemented with a combat program that should be activated in case of war. Right. So there's lots to unpack there.
So it's a bit like Fallout in the sense that it's retro-futuristic. It's
the
an
post-nuclear thing.
It's an alternative future based on technology of the past.
Yeah, Fallout is from the lens of American history.
Yeah.
And Western, as if, their way of life carried on after the nuclear apocalypse. This one, opposite way around, it's the USSR having, quote unquote, won the Cold War, right?
Yeah, from the trailer, was like a 10-minute gameplay thing. Looks really good. For those who haven't seen it, it's very kind of Bioshocky, very kind of crazy in terms of imagery.
There's lots of weird imagery.
So much weird stuff there. It's like weird kind of water monster. It reminds me of the monster out of the Abyss, which is really cool, by the way. Nice little throwback thing.
Yeah.
Reminded you of
the tunnel thing that comes out of him in Donnie Darko. It's like a time something or other.
Yeah.
Good
and
movie.
There's these big jelly shaped things, like little robots. It's all very surreal.
It's all very just odd. and off-putting, but in a good way.
So the idea is that USSR were working on these like secret experiments or something, working on new technologies, and this is the version of the future where if USSR had one or whatever, and a lot of the environments seem to be like laboratories and things like that where you're walking around and the robots are all attacking you. So this combat program has been initiated by all the robots who are apparently like so so prevalent in the society that they were just sold, like I think IGN described it as sold like iPhones, like everyone
just
had one, and they weren't a threat, but so that's why they all look kind of fun, but the switch.
But there's a very sinister vibe to it, despite how cute they are.
And now they're all against you.
I think that's what some of the robot designs and their behaviors really reminded me of Nier Automata, because the robots in that, they're designed to be kind of cute but they all look the same. There's this like homogenous nature to them, but they snap and they start killing you. And I really kind of got that vibe from this, and completely different in gameplay and all that, but it's just something I kind of felt about it.
So Bioshock's been mentioned, Nier Automata, which is thing.
Dishonored.
It is a first-person game, so it reminds me of Prey in that way, and Dishonored, which are both Bethesda-type games. Again, they've got that sci-fi aspect to it, where it's kind of very stylized. And
very stylized is a good way to describe it. Interestingly, it's heavily going to be based on melee combat. There are guns, and you can use them, but they've said that the ammo is going to be very, very scarce, as it often is in these sort of things. But we see in the trailer that he's got like an axe, he's got like a wrench, like a monkey wrench, he's got a big old hammer with a bunch of crap stuck to it.
There was a comparison with Bloodborne. They said that I think it was a quote from the development studio itself, is that they're aiming to do a first-person Bloodborne type combat, which sounds interesting. Don't make me die and revisit my last hour of gameplay. But give me hard battles, and I'll be happy with that.
It's proper like circle strafing with melee combat. I just love it.
Just don't punish me. Just don't punish me for dying too much, that will frustrate the fuck out of me. But the all indications are, I don't know when it's due out. We're releasing in 2019.
Yeah.
Let's hope that it plays as good as it looks right now, because one thing's for sure is that it looks fantastic, and it's definitely something that's on my radar or our radar right now, because we were pretty impressed, that's for sure.
From what I gather, it's going to be on PC and PS4. Again, I don't think Xbox One's going with it. And on their website, they've got these like pillars, right? Focus on talent and team, office, career growth, and games. And under games, we create AAA games we can be proud of. Each game world has a very specific and unique atmosphere of its own, because we really put heart and soul into what we do. Which sounds nice, they're all passionate about it, but AAA games, so they're approaching it as a AAA game with like that kind of, we're making a big, full-scale thing, which I think is really really good angle to go for. It's a good philosophy, that's especially considering how niche it looks.
Yeah.
Bioshock is very niche, but got such a mainstream appeal because it is quite... AAA wasn't as much of a thing, but it is AAA basically. Yeah. And I think this could very much fall into that park.
Yeah. That park where we just don't know how to classify it, because it's not technically a AAA by certain criteria, but still it's AAA budgets or value, or it looks or whatever. Okay, let's move on now. Those are questions we got from the Patreon Discord, by the way, and if those of you who want to add and contribute questions to the podcast for next week or further or whenever, head over to the Discord. If you are a patron already, there'll be a link on the Patreon page, and if you're not a patron already, you have to sign up to Patreon in order to throw us your questions on Discord. Every week I'll come across and say, anybody got any questions this week?
We go fishing.
Or just throw them in. There's a hashtag AskGaz channel, so just throw them in there at any point, and we'll always bring them into the podcast. And let's move on to some of the comments that we got this week, because this is one of the funnest parts, right?
You never know quite what you're going to get from these ones.
So, first one. Do you want to read the first one?
So I got one on our podcast from last week, which got uploaded to the general public on YouTube on Monday. So I went live to everyone on Monday, from a chap called Jeff Rogue.
That's Rogue Request.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. I didn't know that.
I'm sure it's the same icon.
Only PGG is good enough to make me pause Jim Sterling just to watch them instead. I love that.
Well, you know,
I mean,
we're not saying we're better than Jim Sterling,
but
but there's evidence here that suggests that maybe we are.
Maybe. Well, thank you for. I like that it's not turn off. It just pause.
Yeah,
I'll come back to you.
Yeah. You're good.
Bitch, hold on. I'm going.
Yeah, that's it. You're good, but you're not that good. My right, first question I got. Andy P commented yesterday on our Not the Gaming News video. We suggested that girls don't watch our content, and Andy P says girls do watch this. But yeah, it's always confused me how popular The Sims is with women. I just remember sitting on my butt watching a sim run on a treadmill and get just like feeling a complete idiot. I don't get the appeal at all. That is some funny shit, right? You're sitting there on your couch playing the game, watching a character,
a virtual character,
doing exercise.
Yeah, you're sitting there. I'm totally imagining him like covered in crumbs and Dorito packets. There's a Mountain Dew over there. Just
I don't get the appeal of watching someone do something where I'm doing fuck all.
Yeah. I've got another one in a similar vein about the girls from Pew Pro on our Not the Gaming News video. Girls don't watch this channel. Two dudes jerking each other off over video games. Women need to get on this.
I'm not sure.
I mean,
I'm not sure the opposite sex. I mean, I don't know whether I should say this because it might not be. I'm not sure the idea of the opposite sex pleasuring themselves is as appealing to a woman.
Pleasuring each other.
Pleasuring each other is as appealing to a woman as it is to a man.
Well, blokes watch girl on girl, but maybe I don't know if it's the same. Maybe we shouldn't continue this.
Moving swiftly on. Moving swiftly on before Henry has the is allowed to pursue his imagination. Just received an advert from Bethesda about their Fallout 76 leather jacket, and the bloke wearing it looks rather like you guys. Well, AdSense revenue's down. What can I say?
Yeah, man, you gotta.
They're not paying as much money as they can. So I mean, if I've got to stick on a Fallout 76 jacket to pay the bills.
Who's the one? I think, what's the guy's name? He's used the same thumbnail pretty much 3 times in like 2 weeks. And it's like this one girl, she's a girl, like real person, like live action, in a Fallout 76 jumpsuit with like the zipper done real low, and she's got like red hair and she's like posing and shit. And he's using the same one 3 times, and that's just what I imagine is you in that, just like
to pay me more than Bethesda money to get my cleavage out.
No, I'll pay you $76. How about that?
$76 sold.
Right, I got one again from Not the Gaming News from Alec Houston. I love the idea that all dirty talk has to be done in a Scottish accent. I mean, of course it does. Of course it does.
There's a bit I cut out from that where we were comparing me to Willy from The Simpsons. Yeah. I had to cut that out for brevity, but
oh man,
that was funny. Just like imagining that my whole like home situation with my wife all gets conducted in the Willy accent.
Yeah. Have you done the dishes?
Get your knickers off.
Get your knickers off.
That was
and there was another comment, but I don't know who, by applauding my Scottish accent. So I feel like
actually Scottish,
an
Scottish person. Yeah. So well done there.
Scottish dirty talk approved.
It was funny and it was
accurate.
Yeah, accurate. Bunny Rule says, I usually enjoy Not the Game News, so didn't start off well, did it? I usually enjoy Not the Game News.
We've only done
didn't even
one
get it right.
before.
Well, exactly. I usually enjoy Not the Game News. She didn't even get the title right.
Yeah.
I say she. The Bunny Rules. It's got to be a she, right? Not the Game News. Didn't even get the title right. So, how much have you really enjoyed it if you haven't paid attention to the title? Anyway, moving on. But today's one was really weird and just outright rude and insulting without any actual humour. Really cringy stuff. P.S. You guys are at your funniest when you're not trying to be funny. I would argue that there's a part of us that always tries to be funny. That's part of entertainment, right? That's part of presenting.
I want to be.
We don't
funny.
Ever try not to be funny. But that's just part of it. This is just a different way of doing it. However, what I do want to focus on is outright crude and insulting without any actual humour. Some would say that to generate humour, someone's got to be a butt of a joke. That's some people. Someone's got to be the butt of the joke sometimes. And like I said earlier, the intention is not to insult or be rude or insulting. The intention is always to generate a laugh, right? But if that means sounding insulting or sounding like we're taking the piss out of someone, that's just a means to an end, right? The end is generating the laugh. And if you don't get that humor, if you don't get that is part of what we're trying to achieve with the humor, then this video isn't for you. That isn't me saying that you haven't got a sense of humor. You find what you find funny. If this doesn't appeal to you, then that's fine. Just don't watch. And I like that she's not being insulting or whatever. She's just saying, I don't find it funny.
Yeah, it's quite a nice, civil.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I accept your point of view, but my suggestion would be just don't watch Not the Gaming News, because it is forced comedy, and
that's the whole thing. It's a bit, isn't it? It's a bit. It's SNL. You ever watched SNL or these late night shows where they're just reading jokes? That's what it is. The whole setup, sitting here like this with the fucking sheets of paper and everything, like no one actually conducts news like that.
It's always going to be divisive, right? And that's the point. It's supposed to be funny, and if you don't get it, don't watch it. Just stop complaining.
Just don't buy it.
Watch something else in it. It's free.
It's free.
You don't even have to ask for a refund. How about that? You got another one?
All right, yeah, I got another one. Again, it's about the Scottish thing, but then it takes a bit of a turn, and it's funny. 300 IQ Prower, and it's Prower. Again, on Not the Gaming News. You guys think it's sexy? You think having to sound sexy in Scottish is hard? Try German. German for darling is Schatz. And yes, yes, you have to pretty much yell it to pronounce it properly. Schatz. Schatz.
Oops, I just Schatz. Schatz. Yes, Schatz.
It's like what you get in from work, and instead of saying, hi, darling, it's hello, Schatz.
It's the problem with the German. Not that it's a problem, that's the wrong way to term it, but the thing with German language is that there's so many hard consonants.
Yes.
And it's hard to sound sexy.
It is. It's a harsh language.
It's probably a very funny language, because hard consonants are funny a lot of the time. Like the words with hard consonants are the funniest.
Oh yeah, like I did a presentation on it at uni about swearing, and words like fuck and shit, it's because you can build up the pressure and really like explode it. Like same if I called you a banana, there's a lot of power behind it, but it's not very offensive. You fucking banana.
What did you call me?
Banana. But yeah, German I think is a fantastic language.
I'm sure it's really cool if you know it.
Oh,
it's like Welsh. Like there's loads of weird kind of things.
Back of the throat
and I'm Welsh and I speak it. So
one of my favorite things about German is the final. If it ends in a consonant, it's non-voiced. So if it ends in a D, it's pronounced as a T. So like that's why you say Hund instead of Hund. I think it's really interesting, because it's so harsh at the beginning. A lot of the time with these like three consonants at once, like sha, and then at the end it's less
soft.
Yeah, I like it.
Right, there you go. So this another question, comment that got me. Dark Mika's on fire. Mika's on fire. Dark Mika's on fire, not Knickers. The concept entitled gamer is bullshit, and it annoys me. Gamers are why these multi-million-dollar companies fucking exist. It's how these jackasses get paid. This is funny because he says entitled gamers aren't a thing, but we're the reason you exist, which is why you should readers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
kind mixed message in there.
Yeah. You can't really say that there's no entitled gamers if you're acting like an entitled gamer. We made you, so we deserve these games, right? We made you. I'm totally not entitled.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, Mick is on fire.
Get your chip off his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like,
I think as to say that concept of entitled gamer is bullshit. Maybe the frequency that people get called the entitled gamer is bullshit. I think people get categorized too easy these days, especially in this like in the politically correct world. Yeah, exactly, the call-out culture that we've got. So the entitled gamer is an easy way to categorize someone who you don't agree with, just like any other insult. But there are entitled gamers out there for sure.
Absolutely, like
for sure. Doesn't mean that everyone is. Doesn't mean that you can call anyone an entitled gamer when you want. there are people who are entitled out there. That is a fact. I'll probably go out there and say it's a fact.
Just don't go being a prick.
But just the frequency of entitled gamers is a lot lower than the media would have you suggest. Have you think? Have you got another one?
No, you can take another one.
I've got my last one here, and then we'll have to wrap up because I think my voice has gone beyond the point of being bad. It's just like shit now. It's just completely trashed for all weekend probably, but I've got a weekend to recover, so that's good. Oh man, now I'm coming back each week for more and more tales from the Drunken Henry archives and some gaming talk, I guess, says Anders Lionheart. So this is it, dude. This is your
Well, I was saying
this is
earlier,
your platform.
I'm pretty sure I blew my wads first time round because that's more like my favourite story because there's so many like parts to it.
So you
what have I done? Well, thing is, I went out last week for the first time in a little while, but I didn't do anything stupid.
We haven't had any features on the podcast for a long time. Now, people coming back highly expecting a tale from the Drunken Henry archive, and if you haven't got one, you're going to let people down. So give us something,
I've got
Henry.
one, but it's a... Fuck it, I'll do it. Well, I might abridge it, I haven't decided. First year of uni, party. It was like pretty much like at our house, but just over the road. So literally all we had to do is like walk 100 meters, if that.
Yeah.
And we went, and it's because one of my
house party over
yeah, just like a house party. One of my housemates, he was on the same course as one of the girls who lived there, so we went like with him. And to my house, there was loads of us because it was just massive, and pretty much all of us were blokes. It was like 80% guys. So it just the way things laid out, we're all dudes. So we went down, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you can bring like a few of your housemates." We all went. There was easily 20 of us. So we kind of made the party essentially because like there were a few people there, but we really filled it out, and then more people started coming.
Making a party is one way. Trashing a party.
I didn't break
smashing
anything.
a party is another way of terming it.
I didn't
But
break anything. One of the guys did, to be fair. I'm totally going to grass him up, but everyone knows this anyway. Something like, I have no idea why. I just don't. I think he had a brick, and long story short, it ended up through a shed window.
Right, that doesn't sound like fun.
For no fucking reason. Okay. I think someone tried to climb a drain pipe and it didn't work. As often, it would just fall off. If like that's what tends to happen. So the entrance to their front door was kind of like raised, so you had to go up these stairs, and so the pavement's like here, and you had to go up the stairs, and there's the door. And a glass bottle fell down and landed on the street, obviously shattered, went everywhere. And some guy walking past, he went bananas, like he completely lost it. He was like, like going crazy. And some of the guys who we were with, they were just like so up for a fight, up to go for it. But the guy who accidentally did knock it, I don't think he knocked it off. I think he just kind of like
brushed past.
Yeah, and it just went. He was just like, the fuck? He just wasn't aware of what was going on. But nothing actually happened, which actually was quite disappointing. I think it would have been a laugh.
What, if there was a fight?
Yeah, because there was a lot more of us.
I didn't figure you for a yacht.
I've never been in a fight.
You've never been in a fight? Well, that explains a lot, because fights aren't fucking good. Getting punched in the face isn't fun.
Yeah, but there was like 100 of us, so we would have won.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. No. But
because drunken fights are always so funny to watch.
We shouldn't encourage this. I guess so.
Because they're both idiots. Whoever's in there, you're stupid.
I don't condone violence.
No.
When it comes to
digital violence, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Keep your violence in your games, is what I say. And that is another tale from the Drunken Henry archives. It was, if I might say, it was kind of under par with the rest of them. Like you said, you probably did blow your load in the first couple of weeks. Yeah, because
the first one's really good. Well, there was another bit.
You're going to have to go out this weekend and get smashed and give us something.
Yeah, but I plan to play Resident Evil this weekend. All right, I'll
get
play
smashed while playing Resident
Evil. I'll play
Evil.
Shot for shot on Resident Evil, and every shot I fire, I'll do a shot about that. But then I feel like that's one for a stream. Like, you got to video it.
You got to stream it, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. We might do a charity stream. One of the guys on the Patreon, by the way, is doing a charity stream soon. Wylad from I'm going to say where it's from, but Wylad. He's doing a charity stream. If those of you are interested in supporting him, head over to the Patreon. This wasn't, and I wasn't intending to promote his charity stream, but head over to, there is a channel there, it says Wylad's Fundraisers, so head over there. He's doing a 24-hour stream in order for a good cause. I'm talking very quickly now because I've got 30 seconds left on this camera, so this is going to have to be it for this week's podcast. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, what do I always say?
You fucked it up last time. For saying that's it.
I fucked up this time too.
And yeah.
And
stop fucking up. Just say bye.
All right. See you later, guys.
Patreon, go.
Bye.